Okay, so I've got a little zoom in here of the base plate detail that we have. So we're going to have this on the side as we're going to do our architectural section. Now I'm drawing it by hand, but at this point you can start to layer in the things in AutoCAD because you've already drawn in the previous video this basic section by hand. I'm just going to try and emulate it again. Now, in this particular case, this is the inside over here, and this is the outside over here. So it's flipped, but you should get used to flipping back and forth. It depends, which way you're showing the section, but it's obvious from the brick where it is. So we've got our foundation wall here, and so I'm going to draw that in roughly about the same. And why we kind of want to have our foundation wall on the side, or why we want to have our steel section on the side, is that our steel section already has the levels that we need. So we don't need to recalculate the levels. Now I'm a little bit high here, but when you're drawing it in AutoCAD, you want to do the levels. I'm going to do a cut line because I just don't have the space when I'm drawing it by hand to do everything. But when you're doing it on AutoCAD, you might as well transfer your levels right over. So I've got my foundation wall here. I've got the key. I've got my key here. And of course, I'm going to spend some time to just put in the textures. And so you don't forget to do that as your hatches. And then I've got my foundation wall coming in, my footing that comes all the way here. And we already have the sizes of these. So I want you to include the sizes of these, but we already have them because we have them in our steel section. So I'm just going to go ahead and remind some of us here of the sizes, but you've already got these. So we remember that it's, I'm just going to put this on another layer so I can turn it on and off. So we've got, it was 3 feet wide, and it was 1 foot high, and this was equal on both sides here. So it's equal. Remember, there's the equals sign. So equal sign on both sides. I don't know why I did the equals the wrong way. Equals on both sides, and then we know our foundation wall is 1 foot thick itself. So it should even out about like that. I'm just going to turn off that layer so that it's a little bit clearer when I draw. So also again, just putting in those textures. Okay, so we've got foundation wall, we've got footing. Let's go and add our slab. And our slab is always even to the top of the foundation wall. And if you remember from the previous drawing, we're going to leave that 1/2 inch gap. I'm going to exaggerate it here again because I just want to show you something, show you what you're supposed to put inside it. Remember, we've got sealant and vapor barrier that kind of goes inside that crack. So it might look a little bit big there. But essentially, you could do it about a 1/2 inch on your drawings. Okay, then remember that we've got our insulation. So our insulation is coming in here. We've got one rigid insulation, in fact, going this way. I'll draw the texture in the other color. It actually goes up right under here. And do it with a little gap. And then we've got another one under the slab itself. But I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap just because I want to show the vapor barrier. Oh, and I keep forgetting to change colors to do my texture here. So when I obviously do my hatching, yours is going to be in black and white, but if just so the drawing is more readable, I'm doing mine in yellow. Okay. So, and then underneath the insulation, rigid insulation, is usually, whoops, I pressed erase instead of my draw tool, is usually, fine grain gravel. And then after that, it's coarser grain gravel. And so in a minute, we're going to, not in a minute, maybe a little bit longer than a minute, we're going to actually annotate this. So from this point to here, we're going to, not a dimension thing, but we're going to call this F1, and we're going to look at the composition of F1 in a second. But first, I'm going to go back here and draw a couple of things in. So, foundation wall, slab, 2 insulation, sort of lightly, small granule gravel, and then coarser granule gravel. And of course, our super important vapor barrier that, remember, goes in here and all the way under here. Now, when you draw it in AutoCAD, even though you're going to have the sizes of the various compositions of that slab, you're going to purposefully leave a little gap that doesn't really exist. That vapor barrier is very thin. It's a sheet of plastic, but you're going to leave a little gap between the slab and the insulation so that you can really emphasize and show this vapor barrier. Because again, you're not working in color, you're working in black and white. And then on the inside here, you are also going to hatch this with small little lines. So there's basically lines like this, because in here we've got, it's basically called an asphalt impregnated board. So it's like it's a board that doesn't allow water to seep through, and it kind of sits in between there. So you want to make sure that gets kind of placed in between. And then we can go and add some of our other things that we had. So we know our grid line was kind of somewhere here. Maybe I put it a little bit too far to the side. And we've got our, whoops, it's not centered. I actually don't like that. I'm going to redo my grid line a little bit too far to the side. I'm going to just push it over a little. You know where your grid line is. You already have this. And then my stud. And then we know on the inside of the stud, we have those furring strips. And I'm trying to go quickly now because we already did this one. Whoops, that one's not very pretty. And then, of course, this is now the inside. So we've got our gypsum. Gypsum, that was a bit thick. We've got the gypsum board there. And our base, our flooring. So the gypsum board ends here. And there's some flooring. Remember, we said it was resilient flooring of some kind. And then a baseboard that comes on top. On the outside of the building, we've got our sheathing. We've got our insulation, which is blown, and we show it curvy. We've got our airspace, and then we've got our bricks that come on top. So all of those are going to be shown. Okay. So now that we have those items, we're going to focus on the composition, and we're going to label a couple of things. So I'm going to go back to this. So we've got this composition, which is going to be floor 1, basically F1. Then we're going to do another composition here through this. And this is sort of the symbol for a composition through a wall. So this arrow that basically starts on this side goes to this side, and this is going to be W1, because this is going to be wall 1, exterior wall 1. Our grid line, I didn't label it here, but X, that's or whatever grid line it is that we're taking through. And these are going to be things that we're going to list. So I'm going to make a list of the different compositions of those items, and then point out to all the items that we need.